How's it going, everybody? This is Dominic Minchella. I am the Kansas City Chiefs beat writer on SI and the host of the Kansas City Chiefs Insider Podcast. Thank you guys so much for stopping in today as we continue covering the expectations for the Kansas City Chiefs throughout or for the 2025 NFL campaign. But today, we're going to do a little bit of a shakeup. So, as if you have been following along, we have been talking about individual players from the likes of quarterback Patrick Mahomes, tight end Travis Kelce. We've covered almost all of the Kansas City Chiefs 7th-round draftees that they grabbed through the 2025 NFL draft and several others. But today, I thought that it would be a cool little pivot way to still be sticking inside the barriers of this series, but also expanding it to what it could be. For example, in today's episode, we are going to be talking about the expectations that I have for the Kansas City Chiefs taking on the Philadelphia Eagles in week 2 of the 2025 campaign. So we're still going to be covering the Kansas City Chiefs, still going to be talking about expectations, but instead of it being centered around an individual, we're going to be looking at the whole team. And what better way to start this portion of the series than with the Super Bowl rematch happening in week 2 in Arrowhead that you can see behind me. I'm excited for week 2. I know that the Chiefs are starting off their season against the Los Angeles Chargers in Sao Paulo, Brazil. Overseas matchup is always a good publicity stunt for the NFL. It's going to help build the marketing brand that the Kansas City Chiefs have. But when it comes down to the game and strictly the game, there's a lot of bad blood and revenge on the minds of these Kansas City Chiefs stars for going up against the Philadelphia Eagles. So here are my expectations to touch on. Well, one, I'm expecting this game to be highly competitive, way more competitive than what we saw in the Super Bowl. As you all will likely remember, the Kansas City Chiefs dropped the Super Bowl to the Eagles 40-22, and even then it wasn't that close of a game. Now that the Eagles are reigning champions throughout the National Football League, Kansas City has that bad taste in their mouth that they have expressed throughout the entirety of the offseason, wanting to get back and prove the doubters wrong. There's already been claims that this Kansas City Chiefs team, their Super Bowl window has closed. The dynasty has ended. And I am just here to say right now that is not true. And that is just purely opinionated on my end. The Kansas City Chiefs, even if I didn't cover them, they have proven too much to the National Football League in the recent seasons to not be the favorites going into the year, at least in the AFC. This is a team that has made 3 straight Super Bowls, has been on top of the National Football League mountain, so to say, since the turn of the decade. This is a team that isn't just because they lost this one Super Bowl and they got their butts handed to them. It isn't a end all be all. There's another team. There's another season around the corner. And the offensive line wasn't that spectacular last year. You had wide receivers down with injury. You had a struggle in the running back room. The defense did all that they could to keep you inside of these one-score games all season long. I'm fully expecting the Kansas City Chiefs, when they see the Philadelphia Eagles on the opposite side of the football of them, to play with the amount of fire that Chiefs Kingdom was hoping to see in Super Bowl LIX. It is a huge expectation that I have because this is a must-win for them. You cannot just have a offseason saying, yeah, we've got a bad taste in our mouths, we're looking forward to getting back to the season, to then drop the second week against the team that gave you the bad taste in your mouth. I know I'm getting very animated. It's just, it is a do or die kind of situation. While it might not seem the biggest need right off the gates, right out of the gates, rather, for the Kansas City Chiefs, if you drop 2 games straight to the Philadelphia Eagles, it only hences and further proves the doubters in wanting to doubt you. I digress. Let's move on to another expectation that I have, and that is Patrick Mahomes and the offensive line being they're going to come into their own in week 2. You've got to believe that there's going to be a lot of discussion going into week 2. Hell, even the entirety of the season, saying, hey, Patrick Mahomes, you're going to have to be protected a whole lot more. And the offensive line, that is their duty. In week 2, up against the Eagles in a rematch that proved that the offensive line was weak, I'm fully expecting that if the Chiefs are feeling confident with their offensive line, it will be shown in week 2. Whether it's Josh Simmons or Jalen Moore at left tackle, or if it's Kingsley Suamataia and Mike Caliandos getting the starting nod at the guard position. There has to be a expectation that the offensive line is going to be able to hold their own in the early stages, so much so that if they do get down the line and they're starting to fight for a playoff picture or in the hunt of winning their 10th straight AFC West division title, the offensive line has got to be strong from get-go to end. That's an expectation that I have. Patrick Mahomes, he's been the kind of guy who has made a career out of making plays that look like they've had no chances of being further moved down the football field. I think Mahomes is going to be fine. That's an expectation that if you want to hear about all the expectations that I have for Mahomes individually, you got to go check that out. And my last expectation, I am expecting this game to be close, but I can't say off the top of my head who's going to win, who's going to be favored. If you might have read my article that came out on Tuesday, there was an ESPN analyst who broke down the win probabilities of each team. The Eagles are favored in this game, but I would expect the likes of the unfactorables in last year's loss or last Super Bowl's loss, i.e. Travis Kelce, to step forward. Travis Kelce, this would be a huge testament to those who doubted him, to who are telling him to retire, to silence the doubters and say, hey, look at this. A guy he's been very vocal this offseason talking about how he didn't feel like he was a leader primarily in the Super Bowl, and it showed. His production was not very strong. It wasn't high or low. It looked like a Travis Kelce that we've seen all year, and it was very lackluster. If Kelce wants to keep going for another year, week 2, fully expecting him to lead the Chiefs in receiving yards, depending on how high the stakes are for this game. While the likes of Rashee Rice, Xavier Worthy, their options to lead the game in receiving yards, I'm expecting it to be a Travis Kelce show in front of Arrowhead, the home stadium, the home faithful. He wants to make a point, and it's going to have to happen in week 2 if it means throughout the rest of the season. That being said, though, ladies and gentlemen, be sure to follow me over on X at Dom Minchella. I post and repost every single day. You're not going to want to miss it as we get closer and closer to the 2025 campaign. You can also follow us over at KC Chiefs on SI over on X, formerly Twitter, where all of our stories get posted every single day. You can also link or like, subscribe, and comment down below on sports videos on SI, where all of our coverage is for the entirety of the team. That being said, though, Chiefs Kingdom, be kind to one another, and I'll see you tomorrow.